ladies and gentlemen. This is take 3, the video I said I was going to do on Clippers Nuggets Game 7 and Eastern Conference Finals Game 1 because of numerous audio and technical difficulties, including the SD card on my camera, or my mom's camera, crapping itself for no real reason. Alright, so let's just get into it before something else dies, because this camera is about to die. So let's just get this out of the way. The Clippers choked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Clippers choked hard as hell. Kawhi only had 14 points. Paul George only had 10. I feel so sorry for any Clippers fans. That must have been just disgusting to watch. You know, that's Kawhi, player with a really good reputation in the playoffs. He just crapped himself. Metaphorically, probably literally, with the way that game was going. But I don't feel like enough people are giving Denver their laurels, because the Clippers choked. George Paul, he was in full effect today. But this Denver team is no joke. Is no joke at all. I think they're going to lose in probably 5 or 6 to the Lakers in the conference finals. But I think give this Denver team a few more years to learn how to play together and how to win together. Because the Jokic-Murray connection is already there. But I'm more talking about with MPJ. Because he has really, really stepped it up after barely getting any minutes in the regular season. You know, he's been demanding his touches. He's been getting them. He's been doing well with them. And give him a few more years to learn how to play together with him. Re-sign Jamal Murray. He's worth a big extension. Same with Gary Harris. Even if Gary Harris' scoring sort of anemic these past 2 years, his wing defense is still something that a very defensively spotty Nuggets team really, really needs. And I think that'll be great for him in the future. But keeping that young core together is above all else when it comes to this team. Because I think give them those years, and they're a legitimate contender in the West. But yeah. Also, back to the Clippers choking. The Clippers were built to win the 2020 NBA championship. And they didn't. They got bounced in the second round because they choked. So their future is very, very spotty moving forward because, you know, they traded $1 trillion picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to OKC for Paul George. And going forward, I feel like those 5 first-round picks are gonna hurt. They are going to miss them for a while because if they don't even come close next year, this whole Kawhi Paul George thing would have been an incredibly massive failure. Both of them are on 2-year deals as well. So, moving forward, and the Clippers are getting old too. That's just the thing. Kawhi's 29, Paul George is 30, Lou Williams is 33, going on 34, Marcus Morris is 31. And Patrick Beverley is 32. Their real young star is Montrezl Harrell at 26, and he's probably reached his peak as a player if he's around 26. A pretty darn good player, to be honest, but that's also not the player you're trying to build a championship contender around, an undersized center. And, Trez is a free agent this offseason, so he could just say, you know what, screw you guys, I'm going to go get overpaid by the Knicks, then walk off. Imagine the damn Fred VanVleet, Montrezl Harrell Knicks. I just want to see that happen so bad. But anyways, and then of course there's Doc Rivers. You know, people are clamoring, and I mean really clamoring, to fire him. I don't have a dog in that fight, but, you know, you got Jokic, who, despite being 7 foot tall, is a fairly bad pick and roll defender. And you've got one of the best pick and roll duos in the NBA with Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, and you don't do anything with that. That's kind of a travesty. And also, the lack of playmaking on this Clippers team is really a very bad thing. Like, they got guys who can make a pass, like Lou Williams can make a pass, Kawhi can make a pass, Pat Bev can make a pass, but they're not distributors at all. They're not great playmakers. They can just make a pass, and that's about it. In an offense that relies entirely too much on really tough contested shots or a Kawhi Leonard mid-range jumper, it's going to be very, let's just say, interesting to see moving forward if this can actually work out, because you choked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And now for game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. That game was awesome. That's all I got to say. Heart-wrenching, heart attack causing if you're a Celtics fan, but I don't have a dog in that fight, so that first game was incredible basketball, and I loved watching it. I honestly thought after the Bam block that JT fell down, chucked up that three. I thought that was going to go in, to be honest. It just seemed like that type of night. It didn't, but at the same time, that was still a great game. And I noticed two real things about it that are going to be important moving forward in my eyes, both involving the Celtics. One, for most of the game, until around the fourth quarter and overtime, the Celtics kept Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo mostly on lock. Like, they were taking shots, they weren't making them. The defense was really, really good on them. The team defense of the Celtics as a whole was really good at making the stars of that Miami Heat team uncomfortable. But the thing is, the rest of Miami showed they can really step up and beat them without those two stars. Goran Dragic had 29. Tyler Hero made a bunch of clutch threes as usual. Kelly Olynyk at least scored some. Kendrick Nunn is still not... You can tell he's still not in it, but he can at least make a couple of shots here and there. But yeah, if they can continue to try and make the stars of that Miami Heat team uncomfortable and make them miss more shots than usual, I think the Celtics have a really, really, really good chance to win this series. On the other hand, the thing that really handicaps the Celtics in this series is their weird habit of going on these massive scoring droughts. You know what I mean? In the first quarter, they scored a bunch. In the second quarter, they fell off a cliff with their scoring. In the third quarter, they scored a bunch. In the fourth quarter, they went mostly silent. That can't happen. I don't know what they have to do to try and make their scoring more consistent, but they have got to. That's just something that they're going to need to do to keep ahead of the Heat and beat them in this series. Man, and the thing is, the problem isn't really Jason Tatum, and the problem isn't really Jaylen Brown. They're the best first and second options for this team, naturally. The problem is with guys like Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart, who are the only two other guys on this team that really seem to have big scoring nights every now and then. Marcus Smart just chucks up a bunch of threes, and sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. And Kemba Walker is always absolutely silent until like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Then he makes a bunch of mid-range jumpers and a few step-back threes, and then boom. They're really going to need to figure out that pecking order with the third guy on their team. That's really what they need to do, because they need to find some way to get either Kemba more consistent or Marcus Smart more consistent, and I think more often than not, they're going to need to find Kemba in that role, because, Marcus Smart is a great defensive player. The fact that a 6'3" guard isn't a bad option in the post against 7-footers says a lot. But his scoring is literally just chuck up a bunch of threes and hope for the best. Kemba at least has a much better offensive bag. He's a better ball handler and passer. So that is definitely going to be the most important person that they need to try and consistentify, because the rest of the guys on this team, they really haven't shown, to me at least, that they can really step up their scoring when need be, because got Tice, Wanamaker, the Time Lord, who else am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting a bunch of other players, but Yeah, I'm forgetting a bunch of other players, but those are sort of like the I almost want to say big four, but it's not really a big four. You know what I mean. They need to find some way to get Kemba more consistent, unless that tension of just going on these massive droughts will bite them really hard in the fourth quarter of, say, a game five or a game six, and that could lose them the game, and it could lose them the series, if I'm being honest. If they can just not hit a shot, they're not great at putting them up either. They're trying to slow the pace down, and they still can't hit shots, and Miami's coming back into it. That could really kill this team. Yeah, I have no idea how this Eastern Conference Finals is going to go. I feel like no matter what, it's going to end up in probably 7 or very close 6 games. I don't know who's coming out on top in those games, because if the Celtics can at least slow down the Heat, then they have a great shot. But if the Heat capitalize on the Celtics scoring droughts, then Boston is really going to have to work for it. And if you're a team, the goal isn't to make a close series. That's not the goal at all. That's great for the fans' perspective, but if you're fighting and clawing just to get a 5-point win every game, that is really bad. You want to win convincingly and get on to the next, you know? And Boston really hasn't done that throughout the entire playoffs, except for round one against whatchamacallit. Who'd they play round one? Why am I forgetting this? Well, I forgot who the 6th seed in the East was, but that's neither here nor there. I forgot to do a fun fact today, but, I just needed to really get this out before I have other things to do in my life, and that's going to be it for now. I am out. Deuces.